Thank
Asante.
you, Asante.
Asante. Slow.
Go, go.
Oh no. Jump off.
Hey everyone, welcome back to No Tears Frontiers Diaries. We are going to be leaving Uganda today, so in order to give a tribute to Africa and how much we've loved this continent, we are talking about our favorite roads and our adventures on these roads, and this is part 2 of our Ode to African Roads. So we're continuing our journey north. Last time we were in Botswana, and so we traveled through Zambia to an incredible country called Malawi that is so beautiful. Its namesake is the Lake Malawi, which stretches all along its eastern border. Another! It's a gorgeous lake, but the rest of the country is also really pretty. Like, it's super mountainous. And we took a road that went from a really cool place called Mushroom Farm down to the lake. A very steep road from the mountains to Lake Malawi.
Yeah, it's kind of up in the mountains, just mushroom farms. The road getting there was fun and exciting. And once we were there, there's this little deck built into the side of a valley that you can look down and see Lake Malawi in the distance and some small little town lights from people who live on the coast.
Yeah, the views there are just amazing because it's so steep.
Yeah, and we were like directly on.
Yeah, we camped
camped
like in this little kind of
A-frame
porch that sticks out, like veranda.
And there were really cool waterfalls not too far away that we went to as well. We took
I
that
forget
hike.
the name of those, but they were so beautiful. Yeah. Wow. What a perfect day.
But after our good time on top of the mountain, we had to get down.
Yeah, we took like a back road to
Yeah.
Mushroom Farms. So then the next day we were going to go down this very steep, windy path that goes straight to Lake Malawi.
And it was pretty beat up. But the worst part of it was my motorcycle kept shorting out and dying on the way down.
Problem.
There's some fault that at that time I had no idea what it was. I didn't know the reasoning behind it, but I just, like, every 5 minutes the bike would just die. Like the kickstand sensor had faulted again. I didn't know what it was. It was bad gas.
Right, it was like we just hit a bump and then boom, the motorcycle
Dead.
would just
And then
be dead.
I hit the ignition and it fires right back up and would continue. I was just very thankful that we were going downhill
Yeah,
because
the whole thing was downhill.
you don't necessarily need a
Working
motorized engine, motorized vehicle to go downhill. But it was mixed in with some of the frustrations of having a mechanical issue that I didn't know what it was, and that always erodes my mind. But we pulled over, and then there's Lake Malawi in the distance, and then there's like these ghost ships. There's
Yeah.
foggy little
Wisps of
of
black
moving
smoke.
black smoke, like the lake was on fire.
Yeah.
20 miles off of the
Like,
shoreline.
what is that?
It turned out being just massive swarms of
Mayflies. Isn't
Yeah.
that crazy?
But-
Just out there on the lake. Like
just looked
far
like
offshore.
ghost ships.
Yeah.
Like they were shadows without an object to create a shadow. It was just the creepiest thing. But it was nice to look at some beauty when inner Tim was freaking out because the bike is just dying and dying and dying.
Yeah. Finally, we got to where it leveled out, and we were so nervous that it was just going to be dead, and we weren't going to be able to actually get to some place that we could stay for the night. But luckily, you were able to start it again,
Yeah.
and we made it to a hotel.
The first little hole,
Yeah.
the first little driveway that I saw.
And you were able to fix it temporarily.
No, I did a best guess.
I think you unplugged the battery and
I did.
kind of restarted the bike that way.
Yeah. I mean, I got it to happen less frequently, but it would still, there's all these speed bumps all throughout, Africa and South America too. It would have been a nightmare.
Yeah.
But every time I hit a bump, now I know it was my own self-doing because I put on my own power module, my power distribution module.
yeah.
And I mean, that was 4 years ago, but the tape had eroded away, and then
It was like short circuiting.
it would touch the frame and then just kill the bike.
Yeah.
But I didn't figure that out until northern Tanzania.
Yeah.
And thank God we did, because that brings us to our next road.
Right. Oh, we went on a crazy road in Tanzania. Oh, it's hot. This is the river we're about to cross. The Maasai man told us where to go, and that's how we ended up here. I'm just making sure I don't step on any black mambas.
Yeah.
It was a big loop just to the east of the Serengeti.
Yeah, Serengeti National Park and Ngorongoro Crater.
Yes.
Those areas are restricted. You can't go in without, paying the park fees, and you also need four-wheel drive vehicles, so a motorcycle is not allowed. But the area right next to it, if you've been watching, you'll remember that we went through Tanzania on another road that was recommended by our friend Simon there, and this was another recommendation of Simon. He's always got the best roads, but also the most difficult roads. It was really cool because it was on Maasai land.
It was all pretty much Maasai land, and it was amazing because you just see these little villages, that are straw, and it's just fantastic.
This is the Masai Boma. Cool. The road itself was
The road was difficult.
terrible.
Watch out. It's pulling that way.
But prior to us getting to the road, we ran into John Maria.
And his girlfriend, Italians.
You got the nice screen and everything. Yeah. Is it keyless? Yeah, keyless.
What? Fancy stuff.
It's like we're brothers.
I know, that's what I keep saying. They're like our Italian twins.
They were on a brand new KTM like 1290, and they were kind of doing the same trip as us. They started in South Africa. I think everybody here knows that we ride pretty slow, and so they were gunning it, but it was fate that we met up, and we convinced them to do this road that we heard was cool, and thank God they were there.
Yeah.
Because it was, this is not an industrial land, this is not a residential land.
I don't know, it's sketchy. Hello.
As far as, modern buildings and such, this was raw nature.
It was purely nomadic lands, and so it was amazing there was a road at all.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't a road anymore because it had been so washed out.
The bridges.
Every 60 feet.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I don't know. I think you should get off.
Yep.
And when there was bridges over some of the larger little gorges, they I don't know how long they've been gone for, but there were all these detours that you'd have to crawl your way down and back up the other side of this rocky little terrain.
It felt a bit post-apocalyptic because it was like this had once been a road, but now it was just destroyed.
And you can see what will happen after mankind no longer,
Yeah. But it was so cool because we got to interact with the Maasai people out there. In fact, we needed their help because sometimes we knew that they were able to get across these ravines with their cattle. And so sometimes we'd have to kind of pull over and ask them, like, how do you go across the gorge?
No English, so all sign language and, charades.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the obvious intent of what we were after was present. We're on big motorcycles, we're at a roadblock, and you go like this, they already know what you're after. But they would point us to little sections that dip down at a thin layer of water, and we'd be able to cross.
It was so beautiful, and there were giraffes and zebras out there. I mean, you really did feel like this was perfect Africa.
Yeah.
It was just an amazing experience. And that night we wild camped.
We wanted to stay in one of these Maasai villages, but it was difficult to find a good place, and the sun was going down, and so we were in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and it was the first time I felt like we were in like South America, where it's like we can ride 10 minutes down the road, take a left down some dirt path, ride another 5 minutes, and then no one will see us. And that is
not true.
that is not a good assumption in Africa, because
No.
someone will always be somewhere. You know, I
Yes.
mean, these are nomadic herders, and so they have, you know, little villages just about everywhere. We had
And
a,
they did discover us.
we had a really
which
good
was
night.
fine.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And I woke up to some chitter chatter outside of the tent in a different language. And, you know, I crawled out and there was 3, like, to me it seemed like they were 7 feet tall. I mean, they were just
Yeah.
really tall with these capes and canes, and they were just
Gorgeous
studying the
people.
tent and studying the bike. And I said, "Oh, is this your land?" You know, I'm you know, yeah, and they welcomed us again. There was a huge barrier of language, but you
They
know,
were still so welcoming. That was such an incredible experience. I will always remember it.
yeah. But the road there prior to it was some pretty nasty stuff.
It was, and we were really lucky to have the Italians with us because they were able to push us out of some tricky situations
Yeah.
and vice versa.
And, you know, when Marissa and I travel alone and it's just her and I, my grumpy meter kind of goes off a little bit sooner when I'm around other people that, you know, Marissa can deal with me, and I'm not the biggest jerk in the entire world, but I get pissed and I'm, oh, what is going on? Why is this, you know? But when I'm around other people, it's more of a teamwork, you
Yes.
know, calibration of trying to figure out the problem at hand. I'm more level-headed. You know, if we were just a group of
Definitely.
pissed off men, we would never make it through.
Hey, so we decided to actually split this video into 2 parts.
Too much good footage.
Yeah, too many awesome roads just for one video. So we're actually going to have an Ode to African Roads Part 3 coming up right next. Right next? Coming up next.